Hey, what's up my friends? Welcome back to the channel, and on today's video we are looking at the latest version of Salomon's Max Cushion Daily Trainer. It's the Aero Glide 2. And if you are looking for a daily trainer that offers quite a bit of protection and maybe a little more pop than some other shoes in the same price range, you're definitely going to want to stick around and find out what I have to say about the Salomon Aero Glide 2. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, you know the drill. Let's get started off with those disclosures. Salomon was good enough to send me this pair of the Aero Glide 2 for the purpose of review. However, they're not paying me, they haven't told me what to say, and they don't have any editorial privileges on this final review. Okay, first things first, the Salomon Aero Glide 2 will cost you $160. And yes, I know it's a little expensive, although also not really. There are less expensive shoes, but there are plenty of shoes out there that are comparable to the Aero Glide 2 for exactly the same price, or perhaps a little more. So I think as far as pricing goes, Salomon is right in line with market norms. Okay, this stack height is a little different. We have 37.4 in the heel, 27.4 in the forefoot for a 10mm drop. Salomon claims that the US men's size 9 will tip the scale at 9.5 ounces or 270 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 12.5, it tips the scale at 11.4 ounces or 323 grams. So yes, you probably heard I'm wearing a US men's size 12.5. Just through experience, I have found that a 12.5 fits my foot a little better in Salomon shoes, all Salomon shoes. It actually fits the same way as Hoka fits my foot. I also have to drop a half size in Hoka shoes. So just keep that in mind when you're buying. In my quite long but relatively narrow foot, I do have to drop that half a size. Other than that, everywhere else, the shoe fits true to size. And look, I know I'm saying true to size after I just told you I have to go a half size down from normal from some other brands, but as far as Salomon goes, this does fit me true to size. Just like other Max Cushion daily trainers that maybe you have or maybe you're looking at picking up, the Salomon Aero Glide 2 is going to be perfect for those easier runs, those longer runs, and maybe recovery runs, but personally I like something very soft when I'm going out for just a recovery effort. But we'll talk more about the ride in just a second. Let's start at the top and work our way down. Let me hold this up and show you this heel collar. It's very padded, exactly what we would expect from a daily trainer, although not overly so. It seems like some other brands, they do put a little more padding just around here, and maybe it seems a little unnecessary to you. I know it often does to me, but even though I would say that the Salomon Aero Glide 2 has a lot of padding around the heel collar, it could always be more. So I'm happy about that. The heel counter is very rigid, again, exactly what we'd expect in a daily trainer. You can feel that rigidity coming right around the outside of the heel cup, and because of that, I didn't experience any heel slip. Now, the upper is a lovely engineered mesh, and you know what? When I feel it like this, it feels quite substantial because the actual material is quite rigid. However, I didn't find this upper to be quite as warm and insulating as some other shoes in the class. Still, this upper does give a lot of protection, and if we look at the upper, we've got underlays and overlays coming around the toe box, some more overlays coming around the heel with the branding on the side, and then we've got Salomon's SensiFit system. And basically, this is just a little bit of reinforcement on the medial and lateral sides to provide a better midfoot lockdown when you cinch down the laces. It seems to work pretty well. I've got no complaints with it. The Aero Glide 2 fit my foot very well. The tongue is nice and plush, as we would expect. There's a good amount of padding right where you need it, right where you tie the laces, and I didn't experience any lace bite. Now, the tongue is not gusseted, but we do have one lace loop right here in the middle, and I didn't experience any tongue slide. Overall, it's a very comfortable shoe. Now, briefly, I do just want to talk about last year's version. This was the first Aero Glide, and I really think Salomon is doing excellent work when it comes to road running shoes. Now, of course, when I think of Salomon, I do think of trail running shoes, but I actually have more Salomon road running shoes now than I do trail running shoes. So for me, Salomon is more of a road running brand. But as far as updates between version 1 and version 2, the midsole remains the same, and Salomon has just updated the upper on version 2. Now, I've got to tell you, when I first ran in the Aero Glide 2, I thought to myself, this feels very similar to the Aero Glide, but in the Aero Glide's 2 defense, I hadn't run in the Aero Glide for several months. And when I put one shoe on each foot and then went for a little run around the block just to see the difference, I was having a bit of a challenge to find the differences between the two, but I did come down with the lockdown of the Aero Glide 2 is better around my foot than the original Aero Glide. But also, if I'm perfectly honest, I don't remember having any issues whatsoever with the original Aero Glide. But when I put them back to back, I do prefer the Aero Glide 2. Now, as far as the feel underfoot, I thought the midsole foam in the Aero Glide 2 was just ever so slightly softer. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me put the original away. And now we're talking about the midsole. Salomon is using their energy foam midsole, and that's an EVA OBC blend. Now, I do have to caution myself when I'm giving this review because I don't want to lead you astray by giving you my opinions, even though by reviewing shoes, I'm actually leading you one way or another with my opinions. But personally, I find that Salomon's energy foam is just slightly firmer than a lot of the other competitors. But I just want to make clear that it's not too firm. This is not a firm foam. In fact, I would say that it's a moderately soft foam. And this moderately soft energy foam that Salomon is putting into their shoes, I think is what makes the Aero Glide 2 stand out from the competition, because it actually makes the Aero Glide 2 a much more versatile shoe than something like the Brooks Glycerin 21 or the Asics Gel Nimbus 26. Those are big plush shoes, and although they are very comfortable to put on, they are clearly in one lane, and that lane is running easy. Now, while the Salomon Aero Glide 2 is also made for that, it's made for those easy runs, it's going to have enough protection over the long run. It's firm enough where if you want to do strides at the end of a long run, you're going to have a much easier time in this shoe because of the firmer foam, no, not firmer, moderately soft foam, than you would in either the Nimbus 26 or the Glycerin 21. In fact, when I was running in it, I kind of thought of the Hoka Mark X as a comparable. Even though the Hoka Mark X is a plated shoe, it does have that plastic plate in it, and that just gives it a little bit of structure. I think Salomon has kind of had the same road feel just by having this moderately soft foam. But that's not to say that I think that the Aero Glide 2 is responsive. I certainly wouldn't choose this to go out for a race or even to go out and do some speed work. But if you did want one shoe to do most of the runs that you do on a weekly basis, the Salomon Aero Glide 2 is definitely one to consider, especially if you are looking at something a little more plush, like the Glycerin 21 or the Nimbus 26. Another definite plus for the Aero Glide 2 is this full coverage of Contra Grip outsole rubber. This outsole rubber is fairly thick, indicating that it's going to last a long time. But if I do look on this outside heel edge, I can see that I am definitely wearing it down just with the amount of volume that I've put in it to bring you this test. So just based on what I see right here and up on the forefoot, I'm seeing a little bit of wear. It looks to me that this outsole rubber is not the most resilient, and I'm going to say that you're probably going to get an average amount of wear out of this shoe. Now, definitely, 400 miles, but I don't know how much more you'd get from that just seeing the amount of wear that I have on these. You can see we've got some flex grooves. We have this center groove coming down the middle. Now up at the forefoot, it's fairly flexible, but the midfoot is very rigid. Now that midfoot rigidity is also what makes the foam feel a little firmer, but the shoe flows nicely. Now Salomon is using their R-camber geometry, and the Aero Glide 2, much like its name, seems to glide through my gait cycle very smooth. Oh, there was one other shoe that I was thinking of, and that was the Vomero 17, the Nike Vomero 17, and that's also the same price, $160, as the Aero Glide 2, and that is probably the most comparable. I think the Vomero 17 rides just a little softer than the Aero Glide 2, but out of all of those shoes that I've been comparing them to, the Aero Glide 2 is the lightest. So if weight is something that you really look for in a shoe, then the Aero Glide 2 is going to be the way to go for you. Overall, guys, I'd say that the Salomon Aero Glide 2 gives you just a little bit more than you would expect when you're looking at all the daily trainers. But unfortunately, like all daily trainers, there is really nothing inherently exciting about this shoe. It is just a daily trainer. And I hate saying just a daily trainer because it's the most important shoe in our entire lineup. You know what I mean? It's the shoe that we just put our most amount of volume in. We are with this shoe day in and day out, it seems. So maybe we're not looking for day in and day out excitement. That'll probably lead to a heart attack. So guys, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever run in a Salomon road running shoe? If you have, let me know what it is. Or after seeing this video, would you consider buying the Salomon Aero Glide 2? Let me know in the comments. Oh, and if you have made to this point in the video, why don't you put the slide emoji in the comments just so I know that you've made it all the way to the end. And I chose the slide because slide rhymes with glide, and this is the Aero Glide. For now, it's Matt B. This has been my review of the Salomon Aero Glide 2. Be kind, be happy, run well. See you in a couple of days.